Good morning, everyone. Jim here from 50 and Coping and Madhouse Tattoo and Madhouse Coffee and Coffee and Coping the charity and all kinds of stuff. Why am I coming live to you on a Saturday morning? Well, one, I haven't recorded a show in a while, so I'm a bit like, need to talk. Two, over the months, I get asked quite a few questions. And when I get these questions, I don't know how to answer them. So I answer them personally, but then a lot of people ask the same question. So what I'm thinking is that last night I jumped on my socials on Facebook and on Instagram, and I said, right, so let's have your questions about everything. I spin a lot of plates, which has been said. From tattoo shops to charities to coffee and blooming podcasts, obviously. So I thought I would just go through some of the questions that I'm asked a lot and let you guys, hear the answers. I'm not really expecting lots of people to watch. All I'm looking for is just to provide you with the answers to questions that I have been asked. If while you're watching this, you want to give more questions or give some feedback, I think that the chat is open, but I have no idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just type something in the chat and then we will see. I'm going to write, does it work? Oh, this is very difficult. Right, it does work. Okay, so that's cool. Okay. I'm just going to find the first question and we're going to get on with it. I'm going to start with the coffee things, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm drinking coffee this morning. Coffee, right? This coffee is from my own coffee brand, which is called Madhouse Coffee. Obviously, Madhouse is my tattoo shop name, and I just thought it'd be nice if I had a coffee brand, because coffee and tattoos go quite well together. You come into the tattoo shop, you're offered a coffee or even like a glass of water or whatever, but I drink more coffee than is possibly good for me, as anyone who knows me will tell you. What I'd like to start off by is just looking at the questions I've had. I put them all together on my phone, which is why I keep looking down. Okay, the first one is, what made you develop your own brand of coffee? It simply was circumstance and also a bit of chance. A friend of mine did work in marketing for a coffee company, and I wanted to go and pick the blends that I liked. So we had a tasting, and I then said, look, can I take these blends that you already have and can I put my name on them? And they were like, yep, you can. That's absolutely fine. So when James introduced me to the right people, James Marinos, so thank you for that, who now works for French and Japs, who are my landlord here at the tattoo shop. When I did finally decide on the right things, then we had to go through the whole process of, what are we going to call them? What are our labels going to look like? How are we going to get to a stage where we can output enough should we get a big order? Well, the brutal fact of the matter is the coffee company is hand to mouth, right? This is not massive quantities. This is not selling out to a supermarket. This is little bespoke, hand given out business, which goes well with my tattoo shop and everywhere else, and it's actually been a little bit overwhelming about how kind people are, but also mostly how much people like the coffees. Hold on one sec. Never have dead air. Right, so we've got Madhouse Mellow here, which is orange. This is like a session coffee, right? So a session coffee, very much like a session beer, is one that you can drink all day without getting the jitters, without falling down, without it getting in the way of things. I've just dropped the other one, Inferno, which this is slightly different. Inferno, right? We have to wait for the camera to pick it up. There we go. Right, Inferno is the one that you open your eyes and you've got a really busy day and you just need to kick up the ass, right? So you can have 2 or 3 of these in a day without getting the DTs, but you know, this is the one. Now, if you want to start your day differently, Madhouse Morning is the way forward. Now, these are just available in beans. So the other 2 are available in ground coffee and beans. But this is just beans, so you'd have to have a grinder for this one. So, look, Madhouse Mellow, it's got like a citrus edge. It's a slow burner, but blimey, it gets you there in the end. So, coffee, caffeine, all of that. This is what I do now. You know, it literally, you can come to the shop and buy it, or you can go to madhousecoffee.uk and order it straight off the website. I will send it to you. Also, if you live in the UK, because we only sell to the UK, then it's free postage. If the postage comes up, all you have to do is write always free in the discount code box, and I will send you your coffee for nothing. How about that? Okay, so the first question was, you know, if I can find it, what made you develop your own brand? Circumstance, want, and also I always want to have the nicest coffee around me, and now I have because I own it. How often do you drink your own coffee? Literally every day. Literally every day. Today it's Madhouse Mellow because I've got a whole day ahead of me and I don't want to be up and jumpy. So yeah, I had some Madhouse Mellow ground this morning. The best thing about having my own coffee brand is the fact that I can, if you go to dinner parties, you know, you go to dinner parties and you take a bottle of wine or you take something. I am in a stage in my life now where I'm not drinking, and I don't really want to take something to perpetuate somebody else to have a drink if they don't want it. So you never know in this world, you know, you have to balance everything and make sure everyone's happy. So taking a bag of coffee, whether those people drink coffee or not, they will always have friends who will, or parents, or whatever, kids. Maybe your 10-year-old kid drinks coffee, because mine does. That's not good. No, actually, let's quantify that. He had a sip out of my coffee mug and then ran around like a lunatic for about 10 minutes. So he's not had coffee since then. Okay, so let's have a look at the next question. Now then, do you prefer to grind or use ground coffee? Okay, that just depends entirely on whether I have time or not. I prefer to grind my own beans because I'm the person who likes the process of things. When I was a drug addict, I used to like the process of chopping up coke. When I used to smoke Marlboro cigarettes, I used to like the process of opening a new pack, turning the middle one over. I never knew why I did that. It's for luck or something. But process to me is important. So now that I'm clean and sober and all of that, I prefer to go downstairs, put the beans in the grinder, grind it up, scoop them out, make sure the cafetière's clean, put them in, pour the water in, leave it to stand, right, for long enough. Because you need to let the goodness and the taste come out of those beans. Obviously, beans keep for longer, and when you grind them down, the coffee's fresher. The ground coffee I have is all dated. In fact, all the coffees are dated. Obviously, they all have to be. But there's always 6 to 8 months on the back of the packet, or long enough that you know the coffee is fresh. So that basically is all about the coffee. Do you prefer? Yeah. What's the most popular? Is the other question. The most popular actually is Inferno, which I think is amazing because I expected it to be Mellow's very close behind, right? But Inferno and Mellow, they're the first 2 ones I started with. So I tell you what's not popular at all, right? And that's decaf. So all the people that were pressurising me to hold a decaf line, you need caffeine in coffee. So also, actually, that's funny because all of the people who wanted the decaf never bought any. Isn't that odd? So you're influenced in such a way, but actually people don't buy the stuff they ask for. But look, that's not bitterness, that's just funny. I find that funny. Okay? So, do you have an expansion plan? Do you know what? No, I don't. At this point. When I've sold enough and consistently sell enough coffee, I will then look to going and mixing my own blends of coffee. So I will work with a coffee sommelier, or whatever they're called. I don't know, a coffeeist, and really make sure that I love everything that's going out. But to be fair, the Mellow at the moment, and in fact all of the brands that I have, all of the lines that I have, I really do like them. And if I didn't, I would not put my name to it. And I know everyone says that, but the only thing that is important to me is, I don't know, integrity is important in all things. That's what a lot of people don't understand about business, is that, yeah, you might not be the most successful businessman in the world, you may not be rich, but if you can hold on to your integrity, then that's really important. That's the only thing you've got that doesn't cost and you can't buy. So that's something to think about. Whatever you're doing, even if you work for somebody else, your integrity matters. It matters to you, mostly. It matters to them because you're doing the job diligently. And I know that's a bit of an old-fashioned value, but why else would you be paid to do work if you're not going to do it right? I don't know. Maybe that comes with my business head on, if there is such a head that exists on my shoulders. Okay, let's move on now, right, to the tattoo shop. Oh no, hold on. There's more coffee ones. How do you take yours? Black. Like my soul. Black. No sugar, no milk, none of that oat milk, none of that, anything. Just pour the water onto the beans after you've ground them in the cup. Always drink out of a mug, right? This, by the way, is the mug from my charity. We'll get into that. Walking with a Winning Coffee. Thank you to Slam Signs for donating 20 of these mugs. That's so fantastic. We'll talk about the charity and sponsors in a minute. Yeah, I mean, the reason I take it black is, one, I've never really been a milk consumer just because I don't like it. I love cheese and I love dairy stuff, but I do not like milk. Sugar, I used to take sugar. Obviously, being diabetic, having sugar in your coffee is not a great idea. I know that I eat biscuits far too often, but we're looking at sorting that out. Do you drink iced coffee? No, I don't. Mostly because iced coffee has to be full of milk, full of sugar, and I don't like it. I like it hot and black and salted. That's it. Are you a dunker? Yeah, I am. I have basically the biggest biscuit addiction on the planet, right? So I've gone from narcotics to biscuits, which is bad, but not that bad. So yes, I do love a dunk, especially, right, Maryland cookies. There's just something about Maryland cookies and coffee. I mean, they're cheap, they're round, they've got chocolate chips in them. What more could anyone want? So, right. It's a really good question. What makes a good coffee? Okay, for me personally, because I can't speak for the rest of the world, I basically love a coffee that is smooth. There's no acidity, there's no edge, it's just smooth. Full flavour, yeah. So Mellow, for instance, you've got your chocolatey, nutty job going on there. And that smoothness just means there's no barriers to you drinking it. So you don't sit there. I went into a cafe ages ago now, and they used to have beautiful coffee every day, right? And I used to go in there, and they have, actually, there's a beautiful thing. Well, it's Chewing Road Cafe is the name of it, and it's in Wellington City where I live. And if you drive into there and you go in through the door, I don't know why I said how you have to arrive. You probably have to drive because it's in the middle of a street way out of anywhere. But I used to go in there for two things. One, the chicken kebab, because they have this chicken, right, that's marinated in chili and all kinds of stuff, right, and it's cooked on a flat top, and you get like a pita bread, and you get this chili rice, they call it. It's not, it's couscous, but it's chilied, which I love. I love chilies. Like all the sliced chicken, all of the salad in the universe, massive dollop of coleslaw, right? It's £8 and it will fill you for a week. Even the big girth of meat is full after that. But the coffee was smooth, lovely, soft, mellow. But also you felt that rise from the caffeine. Now I think they have changed their beans or something. I think they're using espresso beans for normal stuff because it's really strong, really bitter. But then the guys who own it are Turkish, and the Turkish do like bitter edge coffee. So maybe they're just using that, which is a shame because I don't want to go there no more. Oh yes, the food's great, but you can get food anywhere. When the coffee's right, that's when I'll go to a place. Right. So the questions move from there to charity. Okay. Blimey. They're quite in depth, aren't they? Look at that. Right, so the first one is your charity is in Hertfordshire. Are you looking to go outside of Herts? Short answer is no. Because, right, my charity is called Coffee and Coping. We work with and in conjunction with Walking with the Wounded, which is a veterans support charity. Now, Walking with the Wounded use a government initiative called Op Courage, which has just been introduced. And what that does is that means that all veterans can contact the charity or the NHS, and the charity and the NHS are working together in a partnership. Now, what happens is a veteran, whether you've just come out of service and you're lost, or you've come out 20 years ago and you've had something bad happen, or you need some guidance, or you want some support, you will be assigned a caseworker. And what those caseworkers do is they do not do anything for you, but they empower you. So you have all of the avenues you need: mental health, housing, money, any kind of employment. I met the guy who does the employment for East, like in the east of England and London. He is so enthusiastic about it. He loves the fact that the guys that he talks to and he sets up come back to him time and again, and they update and they get more and more, and he watches their progress up through, you know, different jobs. So you have to start off, if you know, a lot of transferable skills come from the military. Okay, so Luke from the show we did for 50 in Coping was when he was leaving the army, transitioning. Now, I spoke to Luke the other day, and he basically has now got a job as a project manager for Network Rail. He had to jump through a lot of hoops to get that job, but what the reality of that is that he wanted something. He used his skills as a corporal from the Royal Anglians in making people see his direction and make sure they act accordingly. He's taken those skills and put them into Network Rail, and I tell you this, Network Rail, you have got a good in there. He's an amazing guy, Luke. Very humble, very quiet, but also there's a bit of a... when you come out of the military and it's been your thing, basically it's you know, you have a certain surety about you when you leave, if everything is okay and copacetic. So, you know, Luke has come out, transitioned properly, and it's all good for him. So working with Walking in the Wounded, what we're trying to do is build community. We talk about this, Lee and I, endlessly on the podcast about community. We see the world now as separate. Yeah, so where before, when I grew up in Somerset, right, I was a little boy, I used to run around. We used to run in and out of people's houses. Yeah, because everyone knew everyone else and everyone was safe. And yeah, all right, I was a kid. I wasn't going to start nicking anything or breaking anything. But, you know, there was a woman called Vera, and she really was called Vera, and she used to live behind the vicarage where we used to live. Yes, my father was a clergyman. So she would just come in, right, and she'd shout to my mum, and she'd say, Nessa, because that was her name, or Vanessa, and she'd say, I've had to borrow some sugar, I will bring it back. Not only does my mother just not bat an eyelid about her taking the sugar, right, because, you know, pastoral care through the vicarage and all that, but also she knew that Vera would only take what she said she'd taken, and she was happy to lend it. Then next week, Vera would come round and go, oh, I've got a bag of sugar for you. And you only took like 4 teaspoons, Vera. Calm yourself. So everything went round like that. It was a community of people. You know, Jack and Molly Birds, they were people over the road who looked after us kids. They baked us all pies, brought us whatever Jack had shot that morning that, you know, my mum would recoil from. But, you know, in the country back then, and we're talking 40 years ago, nobody locked their doors. Nobody cared about all of that. Now, I've got a bit of a bugbear. I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but everyone says, oh, well, there are a lot more murderers, a lot more paedophiles, and a lot more danger today. That's not true. Okay, there has always been paedophiles. There's always been murderers. There's always been rapists and bad people, you know. But now the media is in everyone's houses. Yeah, the internet is in most people's houses. Access to information is now very easy, where before information was usually passed on by either a pulpit preaching clergyman who told you the village news and that's all you cared about because you didn't go anywhere else, or word of mouth, bit of, you know, Beryl and Vita on the side, on the corner of the street, yeah, like that old Les Dawson sketch with that other geezer. You know, they're all standing there talking about what's happened. Now, a lot of the gossip things, you get some vindictive people, but most gossip is actually concern, right? Or it used to be. Concern for people's well-being and how they are. Now, growing up in that environment, then all of a sudden I moved up to Hertfordshire and posh people and schools and all that, and all of a sudden everything was closed. People were insular. I think a lot of it is about where you come from and where you live. Inner cities these days can be a little bit scary, especially when you know all the truths about what goes on. I need to cough. So, you know, loss of community is a big thing. Also, with the loss of people's acceptance of organised religion, usually because of being, I don't know, corruption, you know, abuse, misappropriation of funds, all the things that clergymen, people of God, should be, no longer are a lot of them. Now, saying that, there are a lot still who care about pastoral care and want to help people as much as they can, but their hands are tied now because there is budgets and religion has become a business. To go inside a cathedral, you've got to pay 15 quid. What happened to the days of sanctuary? I understand that you have to pay for the upkeep of these buildings, but fundamentally they're for prayer, reflection. They are not, places where you pay to get in. When the Church of England became a business rather than a support network, that's when people started to lose interest and the loss of God occurred. When you have a loss of God, you also have a loss of community. Now, community is a strange thing because you have exclusive communities like sports communities, veterans, health community, runners, people who diet in a specific way. That really isn't community, that's just a group, okay? Now, you'll go, oh, yeah, it's a community, yes, we all support each other. Yes, you do, but you're all of the same mind, in the same position, just at different levels, right? So, community actually is whoever, wherever, in your locality, these people are, and if they need help, where do they go? Well, there are places, yeah, but GPs are getting harder and harder to get into. NHS is getting harder to access. There is lots to be said about waste of resources, all of that, but that's none of my business. I'm not an NHS professional. I don't know the ins and outs of it. But what I will say is this. If you have nowhere to turn, then you should be able to turn to your community. Now, your community being the people around you, your neighbours. Do you even know who your neighbours are? Ask yourself a question, right? If you're watching this now, ask yourself a question. Do you know who your neighbours either side of you? I do know my neighbours, right? But only because one of them is an old man who has a penchant for, or used to have a penchant for getting drunk, falling over and hurting himself. Now, sadly, he's got to the stage where he doesn't get drunk anymore, but he, you know, I know him. And then next door to us is a couple, not a couple, is a woman and her daughters who lives there. They came from Enfield out to Welling, and I know who they are. We don't interact very much simply because we don't see each other very much. We have different lifestyles, different times. There's an old lady over the road, Irene. She's lovely. She's got 2 dogs. I mended her shower once. You know, so there is a little community, but it's just the 4 or 5 houses around us, right? But that's because I am cognizant of the fact that some of these older people don't have necessarily people around them 24/7 to help. And if we're there and we can help, why not? So Coffee and Coping is about making drop-ins in Hertfordshire where people can just come along twice a week, sit down, have a free cuppa, provided by our sponsors Logic Vending, so thanks to them. And they can talk to me. I have level 2 counselling skills and also mental awareness first aid. All of these things, you know, they're not in themselves to be done to be impressive, because they're not. What they do is they facilitate me to be able to listen properly. So the plans for Coffee and Coping are this. We will set up and have set up the drop-in in Stansted Abbots, where my tattoo shop is. The next place we're going to is Hertford. Then we will go to Hoddesdon, Ware and Welwyn Garden City. I am waiting as we speak for our charity number to be assigned. Once that has been assigned, then we can start looking at getting funding. We can start branching out, getting volunteers to work. And yes, I do want to expand, but I don't want to expand past my own community. So East Herts would be more what's the word? Would be more correct for where we're going. But expansion is in the works. Also, we are looking at expanding and becoming a hub for information about different charities, different places to get help. So we can signpost people to where they need to be. Obviously, veterans, I can signpost straight to Op Courage. I have just become, which is really exciting, I've just become a trustee of the charity Phoenix, which basically makes gets funding for people's recovery from addiction. So you can find a place for rehab, you can find a place to go and get well and get clear of narcotics or alcohol or whatever that may be. It's really an honour to be asked to be a trustee, because that means they trust you to make decisions about their charity, and that's fantastic. One sec. See, that's getting cold, and cold coffee's horrible, so hold on. I am asked constantly why I feel the need to make a charity. I have a problem with charities in this country. Right, I'm gonna a little bit of a moan. Right, okay. So I contacted Mind and the Samaritans and a couple of other smaller charities, because I simply wanted some leaflets. When you go to Mind, the charity, that is the mental health charity, as another charity, it would be a courtesy just to give me some leaflets, which I will then pass on to people who need the charity services. Now, don't get me wrong when I say this, but I find it a little bit odd that I have to pay for those leaflets. Now, I know they cost money to produce, but I also know that the millions of pounds that are donated, funding from lotteries, funding from livery companies, private loans, all of that, there's enough there to send other charities your leaflets. So that annoyed me, but I still pay for them, because I need them to do the right thing. How can you be a charity when you have like a huge office building in the centre of London that you have to pay the bills on? You pay your CEOs hundreds of thousands of pounds, maybe even $1 million, and all of the money that comes in isn't spent on leaflets. That's why you have to buy it. It's spent on wages and things like that. Now, don't get me wrong, everyone needs to live, right? So a normal wage, you know, round about these days is 35 grand a year. That's great, right? So why do you need to pay a CEO of a charity £1 million? Why does that need to happen? And also, all these begging adverts on the television. UNICEF and people like that do amazing work, but also I do know there's been a lot of incidents with First Aid One, the Red Cross, UNICEF, all of that, where the money that they say to you is going, right, isn't going anywhere like that. That's going on administration, and that's frustrating. But also, I'm not educated enough in the ins and outs of that to go, so then people can rip me apart. And if you need to rip me apart, then please feel free to do so. I don't understand. Right, so Walking with the Wounded, right? Walking with the Wounded, I've been to their head office, okay, and it's a little outbuilding, what I don't know, like a unit in on a farm in the middle of Norfolk, right? And it is just what they need to function, and it's fantastic. And I went there for a job interview, which I didn't get, right? But there's a reason I didn't get, because I didn't have the right experience. So have a look at charity when you're doing it. If it's close to home, yeah, because charity does begin at home. Well, if it's close to home, that's probably good. Also, I'm a little bit shocked, and this is not racism, this is not any kind of badness, but when there are so many problems in our own country that are being ignored, such as homelessness, social housing, all of these things, why are we giving millions and millions away to, you know, what springs to mind is African charities. We all know the corruption levels in Africa. You know, Live Aid, Bob Geldof was, you know, saying that, you know, if all of the money that they'd raised had been used for the charitable organisations that they were supposed to be sent to, instead of greasing politicians' pockets, there would be no famine, there would be no more. So how much is enough? Also, it's getting harder and harder these days for everyone just to make ends meet. Believe me, I know. So why give money when you don't know where it's going? It's not clear what the help is. So if you're going to give money to charity, which I urge you to do, right, make sure that it's something that you can believe in. It's a charity that you know does good in your own environment. Be that England, be that in the town you live in. Because it makes a lot more sense to have a place where, you know, a place where you put your money back into your own society. So yes, it benefits you or the people around you. That makes sense to me. Giving millions and millions and millions of pounds to a bad deal because a country can't run itself, I just think that the whole country can't run itself issue suggests why maybe we shouldn't give money. I am not saying we should remove aid, but what I am saying is that, you know, buy the stock, do pay the workmen who go and put the water lines in. You know, don't just give money to an environment and expect them to do it. You know, water aid is a good thing, but, you know, they've been doing that and they put in millions and millions of standpipes in wells and everything. And it's like, well, if you've been doing that, I mean, they've been around for years and years, most of my adult life, because I'm cognizant of them. So, you know, when is enough on charity? Anyway, that's gone right off topic as usual. I have been on camera now for quite a while, so that's good, isn't it? Okay, so we will look at the very next question, which is, are you planning fundraisers for awareness? Well, funny you should mention this. There is a local group to me here in Stansted Abbots that they meet already and they have guest speakers and all of that. I've been asked to give a talk at that and they will pay me for doing so, and all of that money will go into the charity. That's on a very local level. What we also will do is we're getting involved with the East Arts Council. There's a brilliant woman called Teresa who works for them. And basically they steer us in the direction of where best we would be for promotion. So we go to local events, we go to some festivals, we set up a little stall, and, you know, we make sure that we get the word out there. Obviously, there is no point in us going to Scotland to publicise a charity in Hertfordshire. So we look for events and things in Hertfordshire where we can support them, they can support us, and keep it local. Our motto for Coffee and Coping, yeah, means, you know, it's in Latin, which I can't remember right now. Obviously, that's impressive, isn't it? But it means community fights loneliness. So look, if you do live in Hertfordshire, and look, however old you are, whatever you're doing, whether you're a veteran, whether you're a plumber, whether you're unemployed, whether you are 95 years old, you are welcome to come to our drop-in in Stansted Abbots. It's in the Ashley Room, which is on the left-hand side as you look at the parish hall. It's a nice, comfortable, warm room, and I promise you, I can make a cup of coffee. So maybe we'll look at that. Right, moving on. Thank you also to the people who sent these questions in. It's amazing. Right, so tattoo shop. Ooh. Madhouse Tattoo has been in existence for 13 odd years now. We've always been in the Maltings and Stansted Abbots. We've gone through many different guises. But, I mean, by that, I mean, you know, we have different tattooists coming and going because, obviously, you know, being a tattooist is a bit transient. You move around. which is good. But at the moment we have Talon, who sadly is out and he's broken his hand. We got Marley, who till recently was an apprentice, who now is a junior artist. Let me tell you this: that girl can tattoo, and also she can handle pressure, and also she's always very smiley, and it's really good to see that new people are coming up. But the bad side of the new people coming up is that they want it all. All of us old guards, we just take from everyone. Also, if I hear one more time, shop owners are just there to rip us off. I spend all of my time in my tattoo shop making sure that my tattooist and anyone else who works here is looked after, publicised and sorted. And if anyone would like to argue with that, then that's fine. I've recently had people leave who have decided to coat me off, basically to cover up their own indiscretions. Anyone who's got a problem with me never tends to talk to me about it. They tend to rubbish me and talk, about things to other people. And of course, the thing that everyone forgets, is that I know a lot of people, and people love to come and tell me what other people are saying. So look, if you're going to slag me off, probably going to hear about it. But you know what? It's none of my business what other people say about me. I do the best I can. Nowadays I do. Look, when I was younger, I did some bad things. I used to run in a bad crowd, or ride in a bad crowd, actually. But you know what? You grow up, you change, you become more humble, you understand the way life works. And I really do want to have my charity to give back to the people that have helped me, to the community, and also to people who don't have anybody else. Addiction, so, the charity Phoenix, they provide a lifeline to people who, let's face it, are going to die because of their addictions. There's no glamorous side to taking drugs, right? I can tell you this from experience. I have been in a hospital bed and told that I was going to die of kidney failure. Sadly, I didn't. Sadly for you guys, quite good for me. But when you are in that position, it's very rare that you come back from that. And I was very lucky. My body basically just did a reboot. I stopped taking the narcotics that were killing me. I started eating a bit healthier and sorting myself out, and then eventually I got better. Very lucky to be in front of you. I am, and I realise that. So, now I've got a bit of life, and it's not the old cliche, oh well, you're reprieved, so you do it. But that old cliche actually stands true. Because I'm still here, yes, I need to feed my family and I need to be a businessman, but I also can have the time, take the time to give back. And that's what Coffee and Coping, there's a nice hat, I have the only one in the world, is all about. So that's good. Right, tattoo shops. Do you see trends in tattoo styles? Do you know what? Yeah. There was a Quentin Tarantino film called From Dusk Till Dawn, right? And it had George Clooney in it and a host of other people. And George Clooney had, actually Tarantino was in it as well. He was his mentor brother. He had this tribal tattoo that went from this part of his neck, right, all the way down the side. And everyone came into my tattoo shop in Hertford at the time and said, oh yeah, I want the tattoo from Dusk Till Dawn, right? Right, two things about that, right? One, it wasn't a real tattoo, it was done with makeup. But Nuts, who was working with me at the time, did a couple of those. Tribal was a big thing, and lots of people had it. And even I have some tribal on me there. Cycles of tattooing, right? So, clocks and watches, no, hold on. Clocks and roses, religious tattoos when people come in and ask for rosemary beads, which made me laugh, instead of rosary. And we said, are you religious? And the guy said, no, my nan is though, and she died. And it's like, look, I'm not going to question or tell you what to have, right? And if your nan was that religious and she meant that much to you, then fill your whole body with religious iconography. But, choosing your tattoos is up to you, okay? I'm not here to talk you out of it, unless it's putting your boyfriend of 15 minutes, putting his name on you somewhere, or vice versa. I will talk you out of that. And in fact, I'll refuse to do it. So that's that. Trends do come and go. There's been a massive trend in fine line designs, which sadly a lot of hairdressers decided to do some courses and they are doing fine line tattoos, thinking that it's easy. Sadly, fine line isn't easy. There you go, it's focused. Doing fine line tattoos, you have to be able to make sure your hand doesn't shake, and you use the appropriate needles, and also you are confident enough to do it. Right, Marley yesterday had to do a a redo on a tattoo done, and I'd love to mention this guy's name because I've covered up so many of his tattoos, and also he's a lech, and he it's not good, right? But you know, it's not about naming names. I'm not a crusader. But he'd done this tattoo, and basically this lady, it was her birthday yesterday. She basically had 2 miscarriages, and she asked for a specific tattoo done a specific way. And what she actually got was a big stinking pile of shit. So Marley took it on yesterday and completely redid it. And the lady herself actually cried because it meant so much to her, and she thought that tattooist had ruined the sentiment of her own tattoos. Okay, that's how much power tattooing has. You know, there's a lot of people who dismiss tattooing as, oh, it's stupid, why do you do that? Oh, they all look shit. Yeah, I am covered in tattoos from head to foot, and a lot of them are misguided mistakes, but I stand by all of them. Yeah? Choose who you go to very wisely, because if it's something really important, there are 2 things that you have to do in a tattoo shop. 1 is you have to trust the people in it, and 2, feel totally and utterly safe and calm. Madhouse Tattoo, my tattoo shop, right? I have fired people for being inappropriate. I have made sure now that the Madhouse Tattoo you walk into is clean, is bright, is cheerful. People welcome you. You're offered a drink. Yeah, you're offered a time to chill and talk about your tattoos. And at no point do we tell you what you should have, unless the thing you want is not tattooable and will look bad over time. That is the only time we step in and tell you that your ideas need to change. We don't say, no, that's rubbish, blah, blah, make you feel bad about yourself. What we say is, look, that's not going to work, but what we can do is, yeah, cause and effect. We have a problem, we have a solution. Because I've been doing this roughly on and off for 30 years, yeah, that means that I have experience through all of the different changes. Anyone who says to me, well, you're not a tattooist, what do you know? I've done my apprenticeship, I've done my time. And you know why I'm not a tattooist? Because I was only ever going to be a lick and stick artist. Yeah, and I wanted more than that for the people, and I wanted more than that for myself. So I'm better at running businesses than I am at tattooing skin. So the next time you question me about whether I'm qualified to be here, have you been in tattoo shops for 30 years? Ask yourself that. Right? Also, watch out for people who lie about their experience. Yeah, I know locally there's a shop where the guy says that he's been tattooing longer than he has, he's owned this shop, he's done that. One of his members of staff, yeah, is dubious. And it's all a bit moody, right? So look, check out who you're going to. Look at the reality of their work. Make sure you see some healed pictures. Yeah? Make sure they're up to standard. Also, loyalty to tattoo shops is a great thing. But if the tattoo shop you're loyal to can't do the work you want to do, bin it, move on, find something better. Alright? Good. Right, I'll get off my high horse now. Okay, we're going to have to end quite soon because I think I've been on here 45 minutes, kids. What's happening? Okay, so here we go. One last question. Okay, 2 questions. How old were you when you got your first tattoo? Actually, I was 18 and I got this, which is a Celtic cross. Yeah, that was done by Vic Windsor, who's a Hells Angel from, the Windsor chapter. So I got that when I was 18, not done in the best of circumstances, owing to the fact that we drank a bottle of cognac and partook in a lot of narcotics. Don't ever drink when you're getting tattoos. Certainly don't take any narcotics because you'll be told to leave. That was the life we were living, and I'm not ashamed of that. Where hurt you the most? I can tell you now, right? My armpit hurt me the most. I don't know whether you can see. That's the wrong one. Right, so there's an M in Mayhem, which is literally in my armpit. That hurts. On your ribs, I don't know because I'm too fat to have tattoos on my ribs, but everyone tells you that the ribs hurt. So just be mindful though that the pain isn't constant and it doesn't last after the fact. So if you're getting a tattoo and you're looking for a position, don't let pain be your guide. There are ways around that. Lastly, would you start tattooing as an artist ever again? The answer to that is no. I don't enjoy it. The actual process of tattooing. I do enjoy owning the shops and watching real artwork flourish on people. And also I like to see the tattooists flourish themselves. Sadly, that's not always been the case. But now, as I sit here, I am at peace with the fact that that happens. Okay, look, I have got to the end of the questions. Oh no, I haven't. The podcast questions. Okay, very quickly. Right, 50 and Coping is a mental health podcast. It's a men's mental health podcast. It's women's. It's anyone who has mental health issues. But mental health also covers life, divorce, death, grief, loneliness, all of the above. Okay, so 50 and Coping is the thing that triggered me to start Coffee and Coping, the charity, because the two are linked, obviously. I really like the fact that we are able to have a show that is in depth and based in truth. There's no gangster stories. There's no, I used to do this, I used to do that. It's just actual truth about what happened in our past, what's going to happen in our futures, our guests, how they survived, how they coped. And it's about education of coping mechanisms in a way, but it's also about true life stories to help others in the same situation cope. So watch them. There's 3 seasons worth of 50 and Coping. Also, master and student psychotherapy. Basically, I'm studying to be a psychotherapist. It's going to take years. Laura Drain, who is my friend first and foremost, but also is a very well respected and trained psychotherapist. We do that little show just to explain the ins and outs of learning and how it works. It's interesting to me. And if you find it interesting too, it might open your eyes to something you didn't know anything about. Both the podcasts have their own playlists on this channel. So look, go and watch a few shows. Put some likes, put some comments. Doesn't matter if it's the shows at the beginning or the show at the end. And we will see what happens in the future. Also, I just wanted to say a little thank you to the people who support all the things I do. I am spinning a lot of plates, right? And I realise that it's not normal to want to be involved in so many things, but there is a finite amount of time in my life, and I'm aware of that, and I want to do things, and I want to get things done, and I want to make stuff happen. So when I do make things happen, I then try to care about it, and I try and make things personal. I try and make sure that everything we do has some meaning to it rather than just spinning plates just to keep busy. So hence charities, tattoo shops, coffee brands, all of the things that I do run out of caring and come from a good place, right? I used to be somebody who's a bit contemptible. These days I'm trying my best to really just do things the right way, go in the right direction, and maybe if anyone's watching me and wants to look at what I'm doing, at no point can anyone criticise or stab. People do always want to tear people down these days. They don't want to build people up. Now this all spins back to community. Everyone in the media thinks that it's fine to rip apart, artists, musicians, whatever, because they're in the public eye, they deserve it. No, actually they're people and human beings too, and what they do is they entertain people, and they do things for a living that actually make life richer for them. Yeah, all right, they're wealthy, but they, that's what they do, and that's not them. That's a byproduct of what they do. So next time you're thinking about ripping someone to shreds on social media, maybe have a think. Maybe stop and have a word with yourself about why you're doing it, because you tearing somebody else down will not build you or yourself up. Right, and on that beautiful note, I am going to end. Thank you so much for watching. Obviously, this will be up as a video, so if you're watching after the live has finished, which it will be up in about an hour or so, then give it a like, give it a comment, ask some more questions, and I'll come back and do it.